So today I am standing outside of our house, and I wanted to kind of move a little bit so you can see some of our flower beds, right? So you may or may not know this, but David and I do not like to garden, okay? It is not one of our favorite things to do. And so when we came here, one of my biggest goals was to fill those flower beds around our house with rocks, okay? To put all the weed things down, the weed fabric down, so that we would not have to tend to anything or garden anything or anything like that, right? So it took us a couple of years to save up because it was a big job, but God helped us and we finally were able to do this. Now, our flower beds are just about 100 feet long, okay? It is a lot of flower beds that we have around our house. So I noticed the other day, it's been, I don't know, close to a year, so I noticed the other day that there were some weeds that were going all through our flower beds in different parts. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. We spent a lot of money to get the really heavy duty fabric to lay down, and we had somebody come dig out all the weeds, and he laid this stuff down, and then he put the rocks on. So we took like a lot of precautions, right, to prevent weeds from coming, but they still managed to get in, even with all the precautions we took. And so here I am out here the other day. It's like 185-degree weather, and I am pulling weeds out of a flower bed that I wanted rocks in so I wouldn't have to pull weeds. I was really not in the best of moods, but I was thinking, you know, we took all these precautions, right? We put the fabric down, we put the rocks down, we've, you know, maintained it somewhat to what you have to, all these things, so we don't have to have these weeds in there. Weeds aren't good, right? How many of you know weeds are not good? So as I was doing this, you know, having a little bit of a pity party for myself, which I probably shouldn't have done, but as I was doing this, I had this thought, you know, we took precautions to safeguard our flower beds from weeds, and they still got in. How much easier is it, do we make it for the enemy to come into our lives, come into our family, come into our marriages, come into maybe some of those weak spots that we have, come into our job, come into our head and have a pity party for yourself or things, right? I am the biggest person for pity parties for myself, especially lately with some of the health things that I've been facing. But it's like, I just make it, I feel like, so easy sometimes. And even though some of those safeguards are up in some places, are they really up in every area? Am I really taking as many precautions as I can to safeguard my mind, my heart, my marriage, my family from the enemy? In John 10:10, it's a very well-known scripture. It says, the thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. I like that God doesn't stop there. It says, but my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. We know that the enemy comes. We know that even the slightest little crack that we leave open, the door open, or the slightest little thing, he can push that thing wide open. I mean, there was like just little spots that I was able to pull up. When I pulled up one weed, it was like 5 feet of them came with it, right? So it's not like the weeds were coming everywhere. They were coming up in just the littlest spots, but then they were growing from that one spot. And when I pulled up the root of that weed, a ton of it came with it. And it made it, I spent some time, but it wasn't like 5 hours of weeding through this flower beds, because I just had to get the roots of the weeds and huge strands of it that were growing, the vines that were growing came up with it. But those weeds found the slightest, smallest little cracks, and they blew up into a huge 5 or 6 feet long vines. The enemy doesn't need you to leave the door wide open. He just needs the smallest cracks, the littlest weakness, the one thought in your mind, or the one argument with your spouse to blow the door wide open and to just take over. He's only coming to steal, to kill, and destroy. He's not coming in to eat dinner with you. He's not coming in to do your laundry. He is coming in to steal, kill, and destroy as much as he can. So I would encourage you today, think about those weeds and how I literally pulled up the littlest little root that had taken up and it had spread throughout this one whole section. And there were so many of those. But that is exactly what the enemy does in our lives as well. So I would encourage you today, whether you take a million precautions and you think you are like the safest, and there's no way the enemy can get in, please stop and take that 1,000,001th precaution, if that makes sense. Just make sure you are really paying attention. You have your guard up, because the enemy doesn't need a lot. He just needs the littlest space to get in, and he can do so much damage. One word, one argument, one negative comment, one thought in your mind. Those are all he needs. One weak moment. Those are all the things that he needs to wreak havoc in your life, in your relationships, in your job, in your marriage. So please, please, please be on guard. Now more than ever, pay attention. If you see a weakness, if you see any of those things, guard it up, build it up, pray, God, help me with this. Whatever you need to do, don't let the enemy in. I hope you've been encouraged. We'll see you right back here next week at 8 p.m. for Midpoint. Have a blessed and fantastic